Hi everybody, my name is Rachel. I'm a student here at GW. My app that I'm presenting today is still in development. I'm looking for funding for a prototype, and the purpose of my app is to help unleash the potential for immigrants. So, culture shock. I've been in America for a little bit over a year. My English was pretty good before I came, and then I got here and I spoke to Americans and I felt culture shock. There's some terms that they use that I've never heard before, the way that they manipulate the English language, and I thought there's something into this, specifically idiomatic expressions in English are difficult for even seasoned English learners. The technical term for English learners, according to the federal government, is limited English proficiency. There's 1.9 billion English learners in the whole world. 40% of naturalized Americans are English learners, and 62% of resident aliens, of which I am as an international student, have difficulty with the English language. And that difficulty becomes the biggest barrier to economic integration. I did some polling here on campus with international students, and I asked them if the English that they learned back home prepared them for American life. 75% said no, and that also correlates with the 75% of them who had less than 10 years English learning classes. So my target market are international students. There's 1.3 million of them in the United States and Canada. Most of them are from Asia. China, Korea, and India are the top source countries. They're mobile ready, they're aware of their need to improve, and what's special about them, specifically the ones from Asia, is that culturally they are adverse to losing face. Meaning, if they don't understand something in class, they won't lift their hand up and interrupt the class and admit their linguistic shortcomings. It's part of their culture not to lose face. Some trends on that. 10 years ago, 2003, there was only 3% of American students were foreigners. Last year, it's up to 20% of freshmen, and the biggest growth are students from China. So what's the current landscape? What do you do when you don't understand something? I asked students here at GW, and they use Google, they use urbandictionary.com, or they ask a friend. So I went to Google Translate when I came here to look for something like born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and the translation that Google gives is born with a silver spoon in your mouth. There's nothing about wealth or being born wealthy. This is the French translation. That's my native language. So what else can they use? Urban Dictionary, it was incorporated with IBM Watson a couple years ago. That didn't last because of the vulgarity that's used on that site that's not curated. Watson decided we're not going to use that. Duolingo doesn't go all the way down to the depth of idioms and expressions. Triplingo is a bit similar, but it's for Americans learning foreign cultures. There's lots of dictionary apps in China that are just strict dictionary definitions. Classroom and tutors are expensive and time-consuming. My biggest competitor is thefreedictionary.com. They recently bought old thesaurus dictionaries and put them online. However, the content is stale. So the most recent entries they have are from 2005. We were still buying CDs in 2005. The iPhone didn't exist in 2005. So that's how stale their data is. And it does not include any slang also. So this is my solution. USACA is an app. It looks a lot like Google. You enter what you think you heard, and if you want, you can add a category, And you get a result that looks a little bit like this. So there's the idiom, the definition of what it means, a couple of sample sentences, and some background cultural context on the idiom. And some of my key differentiators is that, compared to my competitors, is that you can have the audio read to you. There's a visual, like a picture or a video of the idiom or expression that's available. There's classification for academics, so either the expression is okay for a paper, or it's for everyday language, or it's pejorative, which isn't always obvious to foreigners. Oh, sorry, and the last differentiator is that the app is dynamic, up to date. So the latest lingo for, like, for example, it's lit, which is confused me when I got here. That means it's really good, like it's a good party, it's lit. My value proposition is that with this app, you can avoid embarrassment, you can have a competitive edge, and it eases the process of integration. What's interesting is that I got a student here at GW who speaks English very well because they're from India, and she said that it was useful for her because she learned British expressions, and that didn't transport to America. So my idea for customer discovery is to go with mostly indirect marketing. So universities have international offices, student clubs, and there's a whole cottage industry of services specifically for foreign students, both at feeder schools in China and Korea, and settlement services for helping them settle in a new country. And there's also a cottage industry of businesses that help Asians apply to American colleges. So that's my target audience, and it'll also be available on the App Store for those who want to go straight to the product. My revenue model, I have 3 income streams, so it's the freemium principle. Pop-up ads, I have found a client. Campus Sims sells cellular service to students. Notably, you don't need to have a credit history to get a phone through them. And subscription, so because the information is dynamic, it'd be updated, and once every 6 months you can pay to get the latest, greatest slang. The pop-up ads for other customers would be the services that newcomers would need, so settlement, legal services, tutors. You don't have your internet account set up yet. That's the kind of a clientele that I would be pitching to for pop-ups. Management capacity. So I'm a software engineer. I have 15 years experience in that field, and on the side, I've been working with immigrants for about 10 years. So that's language services, culture services, and so it's something that's close to my heart. My parents are immigrants, and I'm technically an immigrant in America right now. I'm also an international student, and English is my second language. I have a team of advisors that I got through GW. One of them that I got by myself, he is a linguist from Israel. And he wrote a book about idioms and confusable phrases. So he's kind of special to me. Partnership. So I haven't found a partner officially yet. I'm in talks with an American from Ann Arbor who is a linguist. He has a Facebook group with 1.8 million likes. Basically, it's grown from 50,000 to 1.8 million in 3 years. He feeds it every day with a new idiom, which he writes himself, so he has content. And he doesn't have an app. It's just on Facebook, and Facebook is banned in China, so none of his customers are in China. It's mostly in India and the Middle East. What I'd like to hire are people to help me build more content as the language evolves and changes. Marketing in Chinese and Arab languages. So that's for that. I took a screen capture of my potential partner that I've been talking to, the 1.8 million likes. Fantastic content that's still untapped. So finally, the takeaway is that this is a growing industry. There's still room to make space in the market. I have a network of viable clients already, both with my experience and what I've done through this program, and I'm asking for an investment. Now, I don't have all the numbers figured out yet. I do know that it'll cost $10,000 to make the application using offshore coders. And I need investment for developing content and honing in on my clients. Thank you very much.
I'll go. Thank you for that. It was funny. I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and someone asked me if I was Gucci, and I didn't understand what that meant. And I guess that means, are you good? Right? I see she's nodding her head like, yeah, you Gucci. So I totally understand the need for kind of idioms to get translated. But that example is the source of my question, right? Which is idioms these days, like you'd use the word lit, right? That is a real time, like the joy of the use of idioms is around being in the know, right? So there's a real time aspect of it. There's a cultural and social aspect to it. But it's also being able to source that information to put in your app, right? So yeah, the target market could be Asian, it could be anyone, it could be me who was born in America that just wants to be up with the times. I know you had the Urban Dictionary that got removed for slang, but the greatest value of that is that it's UGC in real time. It's like a wiki model, right? Like Wikipedia. So, which is why Andreessen Horowitz put 15 million into Rap Genius, because it's a two-way stream of, like the experts that are inputting what needs to be known with the actual artists themselves in UGC. So the question for you is, and I kind of laid it up for you, right, is how are you going to be sourcing the latest and greatest idioms, right, into this app when the latest and greatest idioms are coming from a very small cohort of users that are setting the trend of the use of those idioms?
So my plan was to just basically use Craigslist and get young people, teenagers, to feed me the latest lingo. They usually would do it for little money, and they're happy to share. So that was my plan, is to get teens to give me the lingo, specifically African Americans. They tend to be at the forefront of a lot of these waves. So that was my plan.
So a little advice for you on this. So Twitter has what's called the GNIP API. So Twitter and Facebook has an audience insights API. Essentially, they're free pipes that allow you, it's a listening tool. So you can find keyword density by affinity. Mm-hmm. So a recommendation for you to automate this would be plug into Twitter, get into the GNIP API, take an index of all the known idioms that exist today, and then look at, essentially do a VLOOKUP of high density, high volume keywords across a segment of users to start to distill and filter words that might be new, that have high volume, high density, that are not historically in the book from 2005, to help you get there. I know we're supposed to not focus on that, but it's a pretty straightforward solution and solve. But I think you got to focus on how you source content, and I think having kids do it through Craigslist is not a scalable model to do that.
So, and there's one other thing that, so as we were going through this, I've got my computer out, so I Googled, what does silver spoon in your mouth mean? And Google, without going through Google Translate, the first thing that comes up is the English language expression, silver spoon is synonymous with wealth, especially inherited wealth, someone born into a wealthy family. Then we went to, what does it's lit mean? An old slang word made new again. Lit has been a slang term meaning intoxicated for over a century. More recently has acquired the meaning exciting. What does "Are you Gucci"? I'd never heard that before. What does "Are you Gucci" mean? Gucci no longer. I mean, you don't even have to click into something. Google actually.
It's cards. It serves cards.
Yeah. So when I type in "What does this mean," which I think would probably be what I would do if I don't know it. I mean, it's already showing up there. So I guess
Gucci's in the top, huh? I mean, I might be old. Like, I might have been out for a long time.
According to Urban Dictionary, it is defined as something that is good, chill, cool, awesome. So I guess. One of the things that I'm not seeing as much here is, kind of that, or maybe there might be a pivot here, right? So there's something I think that you're tapping into, which is that it's hard to figure out how to, use these idioms, how to figure them out. But in terms of just kind of the definitional aspect, it feels like, it feels like there's a My sense is that Google can do this pretty well just in a Google search. I know you had talked about Google Translate, but how do you feel about Google search? Because it seems to have worked pretty well for a few of the examples.
So I hear you with the Google search. Google doesn't actually have anything. It plugs into the Urban Dictionary, and over the past 6 months, the Urban Dictionary has lost its kind of top search results, and the free dictionary is moving up in the world of idioms. But that's still sourcing something that has vulgarity in it that hasn't been curated, and the idioms that are old.
What about, okay, so also, one thing. First of all, I really like the new start to your pitch because I've heard it a few times, so way to go. But one thing, instead of describing it as an app, and maybe this is a way to position yourself as in what you're offering, is more of, an educational technology platform to enhance programs for English as a second learner. So maybe it's part of a criteria or curriculum that schools are already using, or some play on that, so that you can take a part of the market that isn't just students Googling what is this, but more, a curriculum worked into a bigger program. I don't know, to see how you could pivot.
Yeah, and I like the framing. I think when I say pivot, it's not that so there's something that's here, right? But I think that the specific pain points that you've identified is that it's hard for people to define this, and it just seems like that's out there, like that's solved. But there's so much in this, kind of as you said, the whole saving face thing. Maybe I need to know it before I stumble into it. So maybe part of it is kind of what some of these the book and the website are tackling, is a little bit more about finding out idioms before you run into them and learning and figuring them out. So the first time you don't have to lose face in the first place, right? But your app is more after the fact, after I learn, So, but there's it's not a huge shift. It's just kind of where along this continuum of what's happening that you're looking at. But I just think that focusing on the kind of defining it, it seems like it does it pretty well. Just from the examples that were brought up, it seems like Google has solved all of them. I mean, that's my initial thought, at least.
One thought that I have, I've had a lot of au pairs over the years who come in and they go to Lotto and all of these schools, and they usually will spend like a half a day on slang. And so, I mean, it also would be really interesting, and I want to say textbook is like antiquated, right? And you'll probably have to reprint one over and over and over. But is there some sort of component, like educational online living component that updates, that also teachers can like print out for that day in the language school when they're learning about slang? Because it's something that half of my family is Italian, and so I hear a lot too that they're like, I don't understand, I learned this, and like, what does this mean? They don't get it. So I want to say I feel like there is definitely a need, and like, how do you take this and tie it even closer to the educational component?
Yeah, I think because Google crawls everything, to Ryan's point, and it's literally everyone uses Google Analytics because it's the best free analytics software, and that it scours every forum, profanity, no profanity, etc. And so, but there's still potential market for personas, idioms by personas that you could start to mine potentially, or even aggregate idioms that have been famous or made popular over the last couple of years. There's still a market to understand what that is. So if you're looking at the Asian market as the potential core primary user, then perhaps it becomes looking at their interests and then potentially creating personas across those interests that then you can actually start to segment idioms as a learning module, right? I think the blanket source everything in real time is just going to be tough to pull off.
Okay.
Where are you an immigrant from, by the way?
So I'm Canadian. I'm a F1 student here at GW.
Yeah.
But my parents were born in Haiti,
Okay.
which is why I speak French.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't. But just as a recommendation, I'd include that as part of your story. I like the more personal aspects of it. Were there any idioms when you were learning English for the first time that like struck you? And again, Was there any kind of like specific examples for you that were?
I'm a little bit older, so I don't remember learning English. But in my work in helping immigrants, I have talked about, learning what it really is, not what you think it is. Oh, it's over. So just something like, for all it, no,
Devil's in the
Devil's in the details.
something in the skies versus disguise.
Right.
They don't know the difference,
Yeah.
and they write it wrong. And when you do that, they know that you don't speak English because you don't know the difference between disguise and the skies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very
Sorry.
much.
Okay, thank you.